if you read through the pages of the New Testament, there's all kinds of practices. You could come up with a list of probably 100 different things. But what we've tried to do to simplify it, and this is what we've been going through all summer, is we've kind of brought it down to, hey, what are the 7 major, and we actually call them rhythms. What are the 7 major rhythms that we want to be common to our life here at FCC? And they're gospel, worship, generosity, service, prayer, scripture, and reconciliation. Now, I don't have time to unpack all these. And again, if you go back previously, if you weren't here, this is what we spent the summer talking about. There was a week every summer where we unpacked each one of these and what they all meant. But these are the practices, the common practices that we want to center our community around. And the way we build faithful Christians, the way we build a healthy church is to engage in these practices. And again, doesn't mean we all believe the exact same thing. Doesn't mean we're all in the same place in our church. We don't have to be. Now, we cannot cause division within the church. Paul warns about that big time in the New Testament. So there has to be respect. But we have to allow that we're in different places and we think different things, and that's okay. Again, you can belong before you believe. But what we use to form a healthy, thriving church is, hey, these are the practices that are common to us. This is what everything we do is about engaging in these practices. And as we do this, this is how we become a part of what it is that God is doing in the world. And what God is doing in our life, developing that fruit of the Spirit, becomes a part of what God is doing in the lives of others, what God is doing in the life of FCC, what God is doing in the life of our community and our state and our nation and in our world. And I want to say one more thing about these practices, because this is hugely important. One of the other things that frustrates me sometimes about faith in the context that we live in is we live in such an individualized culture that for us, faith is always individual. So when you think about praying, it's like I pray on my own. When you think about reading the Bible, it's like I read it on my own. When I think about doing these things, I do them on my own. In the New Testament, faith is always communal. Always. We live it out in the context of community. You can't do it on your own. You were never meant to do it on your own. And honestly, if you do it on your own, what happens every single time is a deformed faith is what develops. Because it's rooted in you and your preferences and your likes and your dislikes, and there's no one to challenge you. There's no one to push back. There's no one to encourage you when you get weak. And it becomes malformed. Healthy faith always requires community. So I shared this a couple weeks ago, but I want to share it one more again as we close. We created this. This is this diagram we just called a spiritual growth ecosystem. This is how faith grows. This is how faith develops. The roots, we use this tree. The roots here, these are all these practices, these rhythms. And we engage in all these. And yes, we do some of them individually. I pray with other people and I pray by myself. I read the Bible with other people, I read it by myself. So I'm not saying we never do them individually, but we do all these things. But they all, in order to produce fruit in our life, all these things have to funnel through community. Through other people that are on this journey, that are encouraging us, that are challenging us, that are motivating us, and we in turn are motivating them. Part of the reason we never see fruit in our life is because we do all these things individually, but we never channel them through community. If you don't channel them through community, faith will die. See, we have lost the importance and the significance of the church and of community in our culture because we've made it all about us. This is why the church is failing in our culture and context. This is why it's dying. You want faith to grow and thrive. You want to produce fruit. It has to be channeled through community.